Because I don't have twins I have to put down. Which it's getting better. Like it's to the point, for the most part, like we still wash their hair, but for the most part, we can tell them go take your shower, and they can get themselves dressed and ready for the most part. So at least like it's down to the point, at least like one of us, like I can go ahead and start like making their lunches while they're taking a shower, and Christy kind of supervises or whatever. Where it used to be like, it required both of us for the most part, or it took all of our attention. So
yeah, 2 is a lot more than.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. They can gang up on you.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. So, let me make sure it's live just because I'm still gun shy from Geek Fest. There we go. Okay. How's this sound? Okay, what's funny is I just listened to the live stream and we're coming out on both channels on that one, so I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, it looks like at least Chris has seen it, so I'm sure she'll tell Ray, or she'll at least tell us something.
I can't see myself anymore. Can you see?
Yeah, I can still see you.
No, I mean, can you see yourself?
Yeah. Well, okay.
Something changed in Skype and I can't see my, video while everyone else talks.
Yeah, it's weird because the way that the only way that I'm able to do this is that's why I have to have 2 computers. So literally I host the call on the Epically Geeky Skype account, and I'm basically screen capturing it. But the video that you're seeing is from my laptop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
it used
the only reason I'm
have
able to see it.
Split screen where I was there with whoever else, and so I can at least see like the angle that it's showing me if it's like at a weird, like I want to know if I'm in the shot, but I can't even tell anymore.
Yeah, I know. It seems like every time they do an update, it just gets worse. Both performance and like features and stuff. So,
are you thinking of doing a different platform? Were you saying?
The thing is, we'd still have to use something to call in. Like, we could go back to Google, but then we have the kind of switching back and forth.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Like,
yeah,
every time you make a sound, it shoots to you, and it's like, I'm not the one talking.
Exactly.
Show everyone.
But no, there's another one called Discuss, or is Discord? It's Discord or Discuss. I can't remember. It's something like that.
The one my coworker told me about.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I need to take the time and sit down and kind of play with it and see if I can figure it out. So, really, y'all didn't even send a screw with this. Y'all just the gear, huh? Okay. So, how have things been going with you?
All right, been catching up after being off for a little bit. Went to Austin yesterday for work.
For work.
Yeah. No, it was for work.
Oh, okay.
We had a meeting and then another. Well, we had 2 meetings, but yeah, trying to make some connections out there.
Mm-hmm.
Get our faces seen.
That's good, I guess. I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just one of those, like, we don't know we don't really know what we're doing yet. We're just trying to like figure out who the key players are, who we need to, get to know and talk to, and it's just networking,
Got it. Yeah, one of the other things that I ran into was I saw this guy posted this on that Facebook group about this type of filament he uses that's really shiny, and I was like, oh, I'll give that a shot. And it's kind of got some weird properties to it. Like normally whenever I'm loading the filament, it just kind of like just drips down straight. But it's a consistent width. But on this filament, like it doesn't it drips down for a ways, and then it just kind of like doubles up on itself and gets thicker. And I'm like, I was like, oh my God, did I buy this filament and this isn't going to work? And now I'm really screwed, but it prints just fine. It just acts a little different than any
It
of the
looks
filament I've
funny
used. Yeah.
in the pre-stage.
Yeah, but whenever it comes out, like it's shiny and stuff, like it's to the point that I still need. I'm still playing around with 3D printing, fully 3D printing a proton pack for myself. But I've thought about like printing because the ones that I made my boys are kind of breaking down and they're also getting kind of old and honestly they're getting a little small. And I halfway thought about maybe like 3D printing a 75% or 80% size proton pack for them, and I was like, man, this is shiny enough. Like I don't even know if I'd paint it. Like I just go ahead and make sure I 3D print all the pieces in the right colors and just do it that way. I mean, that might actually end up, being kind of cool. So
That's kind of neat. So what would you do with the old ones? Give them to somebody with young kids, or?
Well, one of them I've got to actually tear into and fix some of the electronics. But yeah, I've thought about doing something like that. Hell, I even thought about, one time or another, maybe like, as the Ghostbuster group, um, donating them or like doing a raffle or
Oh
something
yeah.
with them.
Well, you
So
could also do them like you were saying, bring them to outreach events and let little kids try them on.
yeah,
So that way you don't have to give them a good one.
yeah. So, which is why I've got that foam one behind me, which that was one of the other things I've been meaning to do. Like I said, I've been swamped at work and it seems like I come home and I'm just doing nothing but dealing with this. Um, but, yeah, I've been, I had meant to sit down today and look at my, project to do schedule and start planning out some stuff. And yeah, that didn't get done. When you can't even get to the point of planning,
Yeah.
you're busy.
Sometimes like just going through my to-do list feels like an accomplishment to me because it gets so
Yep.
out of control and I'm like, oh, wow, I have it all on there. Nice and neat.
Yeah, Christy and I have started watching the show called Schitt's Creek on Netflix, and it's pretty funny. But the other show that I've seen a lot of people have been posting about that we both want to start watching. Of course, I'm afraid it'll get us in trouble. Is Tidying Up.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
I've heard a lot about that. So
That's the lady that wrote the book about I forget, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
okay, under message.
Yeah, she saw it. I guess he hasn't seen it.
Because like I said, it will definitely be a short episode.
I mean, we could put it off again, but it's already a week late.
No, let's just get it done.
Did we pick Rhett and Link for the next one?
Yes, we did.
That's a winning.
Yep.
Okay.
So, and I've already read it. I don't mind going through it again. Of course, it was also a short read, but it was funny.
It's like a fun, light read,
Yeah.
Kinda.
And I did not realize, like, I didn't know how they met.
Yeah.
I didn't assume it was one of those things like they were put together, like, they were, hey, this guy's more straight laced and this guy's funny. Let's put them together and make a comedy deal. I didn't think it was anything like that, but I didn't realize like they were friends since like kids.
Yeah, since
that's
that
awesome.
Young. And his description of like how he came to, like how they became best friends, not just friends, but he was like, I was in the market for a best friend and I had started out with blah, blah, blah. He broke down like all the reasons this particular person was the perfect best friend. I was like, you are a fucking nerd.
Height,
love
and
it.
speed, and all that.
Yeah.
Those guys are hilarious. I don't watch their show
funny.
a lot, but every so often, like one of their clips will come up and they're like, and especially the things like Will It Burrito or something like that, and I'm just like, oh god, this is gonna be good.
The stupid shit they do.
Yeah, and then of course every so often they show up on Fallon and he does the whatever challenge war with them. So, and he does not deal with eating weird foods. So like usually when they do that, they both power through it, and Jimmy Fallon's just like, oh, I can't do this.
Oh my god, I hate it when like an account makes you sign in and to combine it with another account that's merged, and then it doesn't accept your password, and then You have to reset it, and it ends up taking you 30 minutes because nothing works.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get into the account. It's like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, this is my life. Just constantly dealing with this shit. Okay. She responded?
No, she hasn't. She hasn't seen it yet. So, but like I said, I've got a few more minutes before we can even start because I got to check this thing or whatever. But so, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so like we use Christie's Amazon account all the time. Like that's what we pay Prime on. But I have my Audible account, and it always wants me to use an Amazon account to log in, and I'm like, no, I use the old login. And then on top of that, it's like, why don't you link your Amazon account? I'm like,
stop it.
I would, but like y'all are gonna freak out. Y'all be like, these aren't the same emails.
Yeah.
So I just deal with it. But yeah, I finished that book, and like I had a couple hours left, and I'm like, man, this doesn't seem like this is going to be wrapping up anytime soon. Sure enough, didn't wrap up. So I go online real quick and just look at a couple quick forums and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, he's talking about doing an 8th book, but he's been working on other stuff. And the posts are like 2 years old. I'm like, no.
Oh, you mean the guy that from the other?
Yeah. So I was just like, well, let me see how many of these I can get back. If I can only get back one of them, fine, whatever. It's at least one credit.
So was it an automated thing or?
Yeah, like you go
okay.
into your account settings and you look at your purchases, and of course it lists everything for the last year, and you can just click request refund or request something or another, and it asks you. It's like there's a couple different options there. I didn't like the book, I didn't like the reader, bought it by mistake, things like that. And I just put on there I did not like the book for all 4 of them. I thought, well, what the hell? What's the worst thing going to do? Tell me no. And like a couple minutes later, I got an email saying, it's processed and done. I logged back into the account. I had 5 credits sitting there. I'm like, all right, I'm going to start burning through Harry Potter.
Well, I put mine on hold because, like I said, I had gotten up to 3, and I have so many books that I need to read. I'm like, I just want to, take a break. And if we get something I have, that I don't have, I can always get it there. But I've been like borrowing books if I can. But I don't know if I can still do that now that it's on hold. Like if I can also return a book, because they let you do some things, but they don't let you do all things on hold.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. You may have to wait till you get back off of hold before you could do it.
Yeah.
Let me see how much longer this thing's got.
But you got this book on some other app, right?
Do I now?
You got this book on some other app, right? The one we're reading.
Yes, and I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because it kind of, the reason why I had to get it on the other app kind of ties into my theory as to why this book was written the way that it was. I'll explain it when we get there. Yeah, this thing's got like 5 minutes left on the print, so. I could try calling.
Oh, you mean on Skype?
On because whenever he calls me on Messenger. It's always funny. I'll like the few times he's called me, like I'm like, what is that sound? What is that coming from? And I look at my phone, and it's like, you have a Facebook call from Ray. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, let's try this again. Made me change my password. The one I changed it to, I'd already used. It was the whole thing. This is why it takes 30 minutes, because then you got to think of a new fucking password.
Such a weird ring on this thing. I'm not leaving a message on Facebook phone call. No, I'm
A
not doing that.
voicemail.
Yeah. I don't leave messages on normal phone calls now. Like 99% of the time, like if I call my mom, if she doesn't pick up, I don't leave a message because I just know
She'll
30
see
seconds
it.
later she's going to call me back. And sure enough, yeah.
And see, if someone calls me from an unknown number and doesn't leave a voicemail, I don't call them back because I'm like,
Oh,
it wasn't important if you didn't leave a voicemail.
yeah.
But if it's
Oh,
someone
no.
I know, I'll call them back.
Exactly.
'cause
Yeah.
I
If it's
see their
someone I
name.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, yeah. I've gotten to the point, like, because we now get, even though, we've got this, super sophisticated phone system throughout the school district now, we've got all these um, Cisco phones and stuff in every single classroom and stuff. We're now getting robocalls. We've been getting them for a while. So, like, and my partner and I's phone both, we've got separate numbers, but they share the same lines. We'll be sitting there doing something, all of a sudden the phone rings, and you can see we're both looking at it and being like, I don't know that number. Just keep going.
Yeah. He said he's not going to be on tonight.
Oh, he did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He feels like crap. He's heading to
Okay.
bed.
And he wrote sorry twice.
Sorry.
With exclamation points.
No, he wrote sorry because he's Canadian.
Oh, that's right. You know what's funny is I saw this shirt one time that I thought would be perfect for Chris. It says, sorry, I'm awkward. Sorry. She's like, oh my God, that's great. All right, well, as soon as this print finishes, we can get started. Sigh, OMG, y'all killed Pizza the Hut and made a hoodie from his carcass, you monsters.
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. All right, let me change this out real quick. All right, I'm back.
That was like really loud for your mic being all the way across the room.
What was?
All the stuff you just did.
Really? That's interesting because normally it doesn't pick up all that stuff.
Yeah, we could hear everything.
Sorry. Good thing I didn't fart.
Sorry.
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 Sai, digging those jammies, Eugene. Thanks, Sai. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. Like, look how shiny this is.
Oh, wow. That looks like metal.
Yeah, I'm really digging it. It's just a couple dollars more than like the normal gold filament, and the silver filament is definitely shinier than the silver I've been using. But it's not like a super big difference. This is a huge difference over any other gold I've used. All the other golds I've used aren't really that shiny. They almost look more of a mustardy color. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy with this. I mean, yeah, it's a very yellow gold, but whatever. So like to the point that the company that makes this also does They do a silver, and I think they've got like a metallic red, a metallic blue, and they've
Ooh.
even got a copper. And I may look at the copper so that mainly because like when it comes time to do the kids cosplay contest trophies, I may not have to paint them this year. I can maybe be
Oh
able to
yeah.
just print them out and they'd be nice and shiny and everything, and they look good. So
And then you
because
can
I
make
could,
something else with them for your store.
yeah,
Maybe.
I could do copper and for bronze, and then gold and silver, and be good to go. So it's not like it took a long time to paint them, but whatever.
Where did the book go?
It's one more step.
Yeah, I request a shiny one if you print something for Geeks Weekend this year.
Okay. I'll be honest. Number one, that's something else that I need to do is I need to start looking at dates for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got to start planning on I got to start planning
I
on
say
what I'm gonna do.
we just road trip to Canada this year. I mean,
If only.
and by road trip I mean if you guys drive, I'll fly up and meet you,
Yeah.
and then just ride the rest of the way from the U.S. because apparently it's super expensive to fly into Canada.
Yeah, no joke. All right.
But seriously, we should do a show from Canada. It'd be awesome.
Oh my God, it would be awesome. Okay, I didn't even take notes on this one again. I literally like read the book and then like went and looked and found like a summary of it or whatever. I'm like, all right, this is good enough. I'm not gonna. I've gotten to where I don't like taking those main notes, and plus I tend to like just go through it line by line, and I'm sure people don't want to hear me just retell the damn book. So
it doesn't have to be like a formal report or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, let's see here.
I'm gonna get some spoilers because I am this far in the book. So
you may not get that many spoilers. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I have over 100 pages left, and I was like, shit. I thought I was farther along than this. This book is long.
Yeah, it is.
400 and how many pages? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a good length.
475.
With a lot of economics.
Yeah.
A lot of economics. Okay. I guess with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and mute the mics and hit the intro. Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight we are discussing For the Win by Cory Doctorow. Joining me tonight is Jennifer Hetzel. How you doing?
Pizza the Hut.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. I'm already in my PJs.
For those of you who are watching the show live on YouTube, it's just us tonight. Unfortunately, several other people. It's that time of year where it's hard to make sure we keep up with all the books that we're trying to read. So a lot of other people didn't finish the book. And unfortunately, the other person who did finish the book, Ray, is out sick. So yeah. So it's just going to be us tonight, but that should be fine. So first off, how have you been?
Pretty good. Just getting back into the swing after the holidays. It's always great going back to work after all that food and time off, but
oh yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, I it's been a month since we've done this show, but we've done a couple of the other shows, and of course you did your show last night, Sustainably Geeky. So, but yeah, just trying to get back in the swing of things is always like, all right, well. New year, time to get going again. You keep, like, I still technically haven't jumped back on my diet yet because I've been kind of stressed with 3D printing and a bunch of other stuff, and it's just like, okay, next week.
It's always next week.
Always next week. But like I said, tonight we're discussing For the Win by Cory Doctorow. What's interesting is this book was brought up as a possibility for us to read by Ray, pointing that out. by Ray a couple of months ago, and he'd even forgotten that he had suggested it, which kind of makes me wonder. I'm like, why did he suggest it if he hadn't read it yet? Like, I figure most people have either, when we recommend a book, it's either something we've heard a lot about, or it's something we've read and we want to share with the rest of the group. So
a lot of times if it's something I want to read, that's why I suggest it, because it'll be a good push to get me to actually read it. But
right.
Yeah,
and
maybe
that's fine. Like I said, I kind of, I don't know. Part of me thought he had already read it or something, but in any case, like I said, for tonight's discussion, it's just going to be us two. Let's start off with our usual, just kind of a quick overview. What did you think of the book?
Okay, well, disclaimer, I didn't finish it. As we talked about in the pre-show, I am this many pages in, which is, for those that are not watching, probably a little over 100, because it's a long-ass book. So yeah, I mean, the story's not bad so far. I feel like I'm close to the conclusion, so it's not going to change too much. But it is a little slow-moving in some parts, or a little like drug out, and it probably could have been condensed some. It's a little confusing with so many stories, and he doesn't go back to them all like right away. So sometimes it's several pages before your chapters before you get back to the same one that you were on in the beginning, and you're like, who was this again? And I have to go back and kind of research. So yeah, usually with books like that, you have a little less space in between the stories, at least, so you can kind of see where they connect. But otherwise, I mean, the story was pretty good, but I know there was a lot of economics in it, like you mentioned. So that was a little tough to get through.
I'll be honest with you. I should have really liked this book, and I didn't. There's several reasons kind of going into that. The economics, which just kind of mentioned a minute ago, is one of them. And it's not that I have a problem with economics, and I don't have a problem with books trying to teach me something either. Like, I love when a story not only is a story, but it has, some kind of information to share and to teach. So that's not the issue. It, like you said, one of my biggest problems though was the fact that we do bounce around quite a bit from, person to person. And what's funny is there's a small time hop in here where about 3 months pass, and I didn't even really realize it, honestly, until I went back and read the synopsis, and I'm like, okay, well, that makes a little more sense. But we have these characters, and several of them are very similar, and that I was kind of getting confused. I was like, okay, is it this person? When they do finally start meeting up, it becomes easier because we have a more centralized thread that we can go along with. But for the most part, a lot of it, I was just like, okay, I think this is this is the person. It would take a little bit for me to kind of get back into it. But yeah, I didn't really care for the book, and honestly, I think I should have. The book is For the Wind by Cory Doctorow. It's basically what it is it's the story of a little bit set in the future, not too far, where a lot of people are playing online role-playing games, which, that's happening now. Tons of people play online role-playing games, whatever it be, fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. And this is the story of people who are in generally poor countries. And this is the new sweatshop. This is gold farming, or helping people buff their character or lead them through raids. This type of thing. And this is something that is actually happening in the real world now. I
did like the social commentary aspect of it, because, I'm a little bit of a social justice warrior mindset. So yeah, I did like that. And anything that points out injustice in the world and things like that, I always gravitate towards. So I thought that this is a cool spin on that, because you can make a lot of parallels with real life.
And I'll be honest with you, the idea, the basic idea and premise, I could see happening. Like if you're just some of the more fantastic, well, I say fantastic, more extreme, where it's like, oh, well, these games are now like bigger than most of the world's economies and stuff. I'm like, well, that's a little bit of a stretch, but
yeah, like 4 of the games have what top 10 are in the top 10 largest economies in the world supposedly, and I'm like, okay, I don't get it, but I guess.
Yeah. But I think, sorry, hold on. Okay. I think that was because he just wanted to really stress the fact that, this is super important. This isn't just like, oh, well, who really cares? These people are just playing games. They can go get a real job or whatever. It's like, it adds some more weight to it. But even then, even with the state of the world is now, it's still a situation where people are getting paid, you know, below minimum, barely scraping by to do a semi-menial job.
Well, and it's indentured servitude because you work for the company and then they make you live in their dorms and eat their food and their clothes and stuff, and everything they give you, they dock your pay, so you can never get out of it. You're basically like indebted to the company so much and then everything you do slightly wrong is an excuse for them to dock your pay more, and so basically you're just a slave to them because you owe them so much money. And
exactly,
yeah, it's a terrible situation that
yeah, it's taking that real life situation and definitely applying it to this new menial labor, essentially, is what it is. Because gold farming, if you're unfamiliar, is the practice of going into like a role-playing game and you're basically doing the same actions over and over again to accumulate this fictional currency, usually it's gold pieces or whatever, and then selling it to people in the real world. And like I said, this is a real thing that is happening throughout the world. It's just kind of taking a lot of it's taking a lot of the problems that we're having with sweatshops now, whereas maybe manufacturing sweatshops and applying it to that. And it talks about that. One of the things in the book is the fact that the group is wanting to get a what's the not guild? What is the term I'm looking for? Union. They're wanting to get a union together to help protect their rights. And of course, it talks about the fact that the normal trade unions are just like, y'all are playing games, y'all whatever. Y'all aren't even in the same league we are. And by the end of the book, they're like, oh no, like y'all have a good point. Like
we're all in this
whereas
together. Yeah,
exactly, we're all in this together. We're all living in the same type of situation. We're doing a different job, but we're all doing the same type of thing. And they point out, go on.
I was gonna say that's like the concept that I thought was kind of cool, that like throughout the book you have these people fighting on the virtual side, but they're also trying to pull in those factory workers in the real world and unite everyone, because it's just all workers all over the world, and they're trying to tell them, hey, if whether you live in India or China or another like third world country that gets these jobs because they have no rules for the companies to follow, we're all workers and we all matter and we're all in it together. So don't think of it in terms of, well, it's not going to help me, because it helps us all in the end. And it's being more of a broader scope, because I think a lot of places tend to think local and, oh, I only want to help my people. And that doesn't work in a situation like this.
And it brings up the fact that unlike those type of trade unions, whereas they can come in and basically close up shop and move everything to another country where it would be feasibly cheaper to produce. They're like, this is a global thing. Like, this is not just Indian workers, and this is not just an Indian union. This is a union that would like encapsulate these gold farmers from all over the world. So it's not like they can just pull up stakes and move somewhere else. Like, this is hitting the union on a global scale. So but like I said, so just kind of going through some of this. So some of the characters that we have, it starts off with a kid named Matthew Fong. He works for Boss Wing, and him and this group of guys have basically they're the best of what they do of gold farming, and they went out on their own. They're like, we're not working for you anymore. We're going to do our own thing. And they end up, in the book, they have this giant score. They make, a bunch of money all of a sudden. And the boss's goons show up and basically beat the crap out of them and tell them, listen, you're going to be independent, but you're still going to funnel all of your money through us, and we're going to take a huge cut, and you don't really have a choice in this.
We're going to kill you.
Or we're going to kill you. And it's like I said, it's that classic example of a boss having total control, and just throwing their weight around. And like you said, it's indentured servitude. It's slavery, really. Um, and so it talks about this. Um, and then it moves on to a kid that's in America. He's staying up late and he's playing with a bunch of Chinese kids, and his parents like don't see the value in it. They are threatening to send him to like a private school or whatever. Kind of weird. There's a car accident, and while his dad is like preoccupied with the car accident, he runs away. He manages to kind of get up and out of his zone or whatever. Um, but he's constantly talking with his friends in China, and they're talking about the type of situations they're in, and this, that, and the other, which plays in later. Um, let's see here, and then we go to Mumbai, where there's a girl named Mala, and she not only is she's not a gold farmer, she's more of a strategist. In fact, she's a really good strategist, and she's able to. They're being hired to take out these gold farmers, or they're being hired to take out these other armies in these games and stuff. And she goes on this big raid and basically it gets her ass handed to her. And when she finds she finds out who it is, it's a person calling herself Big Sister, and she's like, "Hey, we're part of a international union, and we're trying to get all of the workers together. You should come join us." And so we start getting in these ties. Pardon me. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. And then we move over, and then up to this point, I'm following it. I'm like, okay, so we've got a couple of different stories that are going to tie in together, probably somehow or another. They're all playing the game, they're all doing kind of their own thing. And then we get to the second part of the book, and this is where the not statistics. I'm not having a good night tonight. Economics. This is where the economics lessons are coming in. And this is when I started having problems with the book. I don't have a problem with these with a book having, like you said in the pre-show, having a story. It's not just a story. It's trying to teach you something. I actually prefer that. I like that in a book. To pick up some nuggets of information as I'm going along and being entertained. This book, on the other hand, literally just like slams on the brakes and is like, okay, time for an economics lesson. And it's simplified, but it also kind of felt like talking down to me a little bit. Did you get that at all?
When they start going, like, is this when he's giving the lesson to Mala or the other girl?
Any time that it stops and it's like, okay, well, this is what's happening. They're farming the gold. We're going to take the gold and we're going to put it into this, and then it's going to go into equity. And I'm just like,
I mean, a little bit, but whenever people start talking macroeconomics or even micro, I don't get it. I've tried for years to understand it, and it just completely goes over my head. So I just feel really stupid whenever any of that talk starts. But yeah, it was a little like, oh boy, this is a lot. And is this all relevant to what we're doing? Especially when they get to the guy who's like the student who like quit school to come up with all these theories, and he's talking about the markets. And yeah, I was just like, I just don't get it. I really don't get how money in a video game translates to real money. That's what doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah, it does kind of take some liberties there. I mean, I understand the whole thing of, okay, like if I'm playing the game and I spend $1 at real money, I get say 100 gold or whatever. And I can understand going out and farming this stuff, using my time, or in this case, other people's time, and saying, hey, instead of buying 100 gold for your $1 from the company, if you give me your $1, I'll give you 150 gold. So I could understand, I understand that. But then it starts going, like you said, it starts going into like, there's like hedge funds, and they're like investments, and there's like literally a stock market, and it's getting super deep. And like I said, it has shut down all of the story has shut down at this point, and we're getting nothing but this straight economics lesson. And it was a lot. It really made the book hard to listen to. I came to several points and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna stop and go listen to something else or do something else because I'm
Brain break.
yeah, I've had enough. Like I also try to listen to stuff while I'm doing other things, and I don't really need to stop what I'm doing to divert all of my thought process to follow this. At least for something that I don't find particularly interesting. I mean, it was different with Neil deGrasse Tyson's book because I was like, stop and be like, oh wow, that's really interesting. And when you think about this, I'm just like, I also have
also his voice.
Yes, I also have a. I hate the stock market. I just, I know how it works to some extent. It just seems idiotic and stupid. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't understand how it's not gambling because it is, but
it's legally gambling.
Exactly. It's legalized gambling. So, but yeah, we got this guy, Connor. He quits his job. He's in the PhD program at Stanford, and he does all these different, stuff. He does all these different models and stuff, and he ends up like becoming a hermit and, shuts himself in and is like spending all of his money. He basically goes bankrupt because he just knows this stuff's going to start paying off. And by the way, all these games are owned by the Coca-Cola company, which I thought was like, all right, Coca-Cola, okay. Sure, why not? But anyway, so there's this strike. Boss Wing declares there's a lock-in, and there's a strike, and what ends up happening is some of these kids, some of these boys end up getting hurt and killed, and one of them manages to get away. And at one point, he finds. Did you get to the part where he finds?
He meets the girl.
He meets the girl who does the. I cannot remember her name.
Show.
The show.
Yeah. He actually got up to the part where his friend got out and he introduces him. So.
Okay. What was her name? I cannot.
John something. Johnny.
Johnny. Johnny. Yeah. So anyway, she does like a
Giondi,
Giondi, and she does a show, basically a online pirate, radio show, talking to these girls that are in these most basically sweatshops and stuff, and talking about, listen, you don't listen to your boss. They don't really love you. They're just taking advantage of you. You need to get, you stick together. You can get through this, girls. I got through this. And then she starts, promoting the stuff that the Weebly's, as they're called, the online union. And she becomes one of their allies. And it's at this point we start weaving some of these stories together. So you have all these different players doing different things, and they all start coming together, and they're starting to try to organize. They're trying to organize strikes. They're trying to organize what happens in these different countries and stuff. And they even start contacting the unions and like, hey, we want in, and y'all need to be part of this, like we were talking about before. And like it was, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff in there. The kid from the U.S. ends up sneaking into China in a.
So I got to the part where he was building the box, and then, he talks about how he equipped this modular
shipping container,
whatever, shipping container, and then I don't know what happened after that. I haven't figured it out, but I was like, why doesn't he have like good standing in the U.S.? Why doesn't he just go over as? Did they ever address that? Because he briefly says something about that, but then he never explains it, and I'm just like, this is dumb.
I think it's because he was trying to smuggle in a bunch of these
the game cards.
The game cards, and I think that's the way he figured it out. But then again, it's still like, why didn't you put them in the shipping container and then just, like you said, fly over? You own the shipping, because your dad died, you own part of the shipping thing. Why don't you just ship it to yourself and go? But whatever. I thought the same thing. It was a little weird. I don't know, maybe his mom was going to stand in the way of it or whatever. But anyway, he ends up getting there. He's fine. Um, yeah. So the book ends up at the very end. All of these there have been a couple of different breakouts or whatever. Um, um, what's her name? Big Sis ends up getting killed in a raid, and they all try to like all these Weebly's, all these unionized gamers start coming together and have this massive war and are blocking all the gold farmers. And then they go to the people who are running the sweatshops and stuff, and they're basically telling them, listen, y'all have to deal with us. Like we're standing up. We're not going to take this anymore. And they even find out some stuff on uh, the people at the Coca-Cola company, which I still think is so weird. It's Coca-Cola, but whatever.
What are the other companies that own games? So there's other weird ones that you're like, why are they in the game business?
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Coca-Cola was the main one that kept coming up. You're right. There was another one that was totally out of left
I
field.
wonder how they got around using their name if
well, being in a book, you can actually do that. Like you can make
okay.
references and stuff. Yeah. So
Can name
which is
it,
why Ready Player One had so many references, but when you try to make it into a movie, it's a different thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, they have this big battle and they end up going to Coca-Cola and they're basically like, listen, we've been storing up all this money. We've got, all this virtual game money. We've got basically everything on lockdown. You're going to start working with us. You're going to start helping us get decent pay and decent living rights or whatever, or we're basically going to shut down all of your games and that's going to cost you a ton of money. And like, it was like an 11th hour type thing, that's like, going toe to toe. Do we really believe them? They're like, sure. Yeah, we absolutely have to believe them, whatever. And the end of the book is like, they've pretty much gotten what they wanted. And they're going to Mumbai to kind of rally together and start organizing this stuff. And the Connor, the kid that, worked for Coca-Cola that, came up with all these economic plans or whatever, I thought this was a weird thing, managed to hack their email accounts and find out where they were meeting. So he shows up too. And they're just like, oh, so you're the guy that we were going toe to toe with. And he's like, well, kind of, I just worked for the company. He said, but it was weird. It was a weird.
I don't like him. I don't like him.
Yeah.
He seems like a snake.
Honestly,
like selfish. Yeah.
I didn't care for most of the characters in the book. Jondi, the girl who was doing the show, I liked her because she seemed like she was genuinely trying to help. A lot of the other characters, though, kind of go back and forth, throughout the story, and I'm just like, are you doing this for you, or are you doing this to actually help people?
Well, like, I thought it was weird when Mala was adamant, like, no, we're not going to join you. When who is it, Yasmin left the group, and then they all attack her, like physically attack her, and then she fights back. Mala ends up in the hospital, and then she's like, okay, I'll join you now. And I'm like, because you got beat up, now you're going to be on their side? Like, I don't get it. And she's, yeah.
Some of the motivations of the characters just, like you said, they're a little weird. There are not, I don't say flaky, but they're just,
yeah.
They kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really care for the book. Like I said, most of the characters just seemed kind of, they weren't extremely deep to me. And I also think, unfortunately, it may also have been the writing style on this. So, which brings up my biggest problem with the book, and that is, like I said, it's the economic stuff. And so I listen to if you've listened to this show, I do all of my reading, quote unquote, my listening through Audible. All of my reading is done through Audible. This book was not on Audible, and in order to read this book, I had to go either read a physical copy or try to get it electronically through a library. Or what I ended up doing was I got a free month trial for I think it's called audiobooks.com. And just a quick word on that. The service seemed fine, but it's not Audible. Like, it's like Audible, like maybe a decade ago. Like, they're still trying to figure out stuff. And that's how I ended up reading this book. And the reason why I bring that up is because the author of this book is Cory Doctorow, and he's known in the internet space as being like a really he's very adamant about personal rights. So, in fact, they even referenced him in Ready Player One. Like, whenever it was time to vote for the president and stuff of the Oasis, he said, "Well, of course he was voting for Cory Doctorow and Will Wheaton because those guys pretty much, make sure that they stand up for people's rights or whatever." So Cory Doctorow is known for standing up. He's very anti like spying and stuff. He believes everyone should, have an open and free voice on the internet. But he's also heavily against any kind of DRM, digital rights management, to the point that's why his book is not on Audible. Is even though, if you have an Audible account, you buy the book, you own it. Like you just have to use their player to listen to it, but you own the book. Even if you quit your account, you still own the book. But because there's any kind of DRM on it, he's against it, and that's why he doesn't have his books on Audible. To the point that I'm like, the reason why this ties in is I'm like, I understand having, pardon me, I understand having your convictions and standing by them, and that's great. But to a certain point, it actually kind of starts to conflict with whatever it is you want to do. You're so adamant about no DRM, which I understand a decade ago, yes, DRM was garbage. Like, yeah, you bought something, you couldn't hardly listen to it, you couldn't do anything with it. Nowadays, everything's kind of tied together and you buy it and you can do a lot more stuff with it. But it's like, because you're so adamant about it, I couldn't read the book the way I wanted to, so I had to go about and do this other thing.
But how is this system different from Audible? And like, don't you still have to use their system? So then, isn't it kind of the same setup, or am I missing
like
something?
you can actually download a copy of it. Like,
like a
Audible, yeah.
Gotcha.
Audio
file.
Yeah. But and the reason why the way this ties in, the point I'm trying to make is he was so adamant about the DRM and everything. That's the way that this book was released. Mirror that to this book. He's so adamant about trying to go into these economic lessons that we just like the story really almost seemed like it was added to. You know what I'm saying? Like it just the economics is the absolute most important thing. And the story can be pretty good too. But for me, it did not work. It didn't flow. It kept breaking up the story. Had this been about one character, and had a more central theme all the way through it, it might not have bothered me as much. But like I said, add to the fact that you've got 5 or 6 different characters. We're not regularly checking in on them. And that we have these times where literally it just shuts down the story. And it's like, here's the economics lesson. Deal with it. And it just did not fly with me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, at least you've tried out another format or software.
I have tried another. Yeah.
I tried, I guess like kind of early on in the book club, I tried out eStories, which is another subscription service. And I tried it because they had like a, 1 month free special, and I ended up staying with it for a little bit because it was a little bit cheaper than Audible, but their selection wasn't as good. So that was the main reason I canceled, because Audible, you could get like just about anything. And that one was just like the most popular titles. And some of the books we read weren't quite, you know, as popular, or they were exclusive to Audible. So like the Scott Meyer books, but yeah, I mean, it was, I still have a few books on that. So now I have to swap back and forth and figure out, okay, where did I save it?
Right.
I made a spreadsheet for that, actually.
Yay.
He's so proud of me. Yeah. All my digital books, I list what they are and where they're at.
Nice. See, I've only ever used Audible. So whenever I go to look for my digital books, I literally just have to log in and be like, all right, let's see what I got. So, but yeah, so if you don't think those things would bother you, if you don't think the hard economics lessons or having the multiple storylines would detract from it. You may enjoy the book. Like I said, it just didn't hit with me. And it may also, and we've talked about this before. Like I said, I do all my reading, through audiobooks, and having a physical copy that, like you said, you had to flip back and kind of reference some of the characters and stuff. This might have been another one of those times where having a physical copy of the book might have actually made it better for me. But it just, like I said, as is, it just did not hit with me. So, what did you think?
Overall?
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent story, and it kept me going. Like Chris, I think she said she couldn't get past the first 25 pages, but I was still, like, oh, I want to know what happens. But it wasn't as captivating as some things, and it did. Some of that stuff did take away from it, but overall, I enjoyed the story. Just could have been, I guess, structured a little better, and less economics would have helped.
Yeah. You think
might have also reduced the number of pages. Yeah, I'll finish it because I want to know what happens.
Okay.
I just don't know how fast I'll get through it.
Well, when you do finally finish it, I'd like to get your final opinion of it. So
yeah.
But
I underestimated how long this book was and how fast I could get through it, I
guess. Yeah, it's like I said, it was rather lengthy. So I kept looking at the audio player and I kept going, wow, I thought I'd be further along in this than I am.
Did you listen on double speed too?
Yes.
Wow.
I always did. Like, that was the other thing. I was like, if this system doesn't have an app that I can listen at double speed, I don't know what I'm going to do. But sure enough, it did. So, but even at double speed, I was like, but I mean, that should also tell you, like, I downloaded the first 4 Harry Potter books because I had some extra credits come up through Audible, and I'm already like a good ways into the first Harry Potter book, and I look down and I'm just like, wow, I'm flying through this because I'm enjoying it. And that was one of the things I could tell. I really wasn't enjoying this other book because I kept looking. I was like, okay, I still have another 6 hours to go. Okay, I've got another 5 hours to go.
Who narrates that? The Harry Potter books?
Let me see. Well, okay, now here's the thing. Because because it's in the U.S., Jim Dale does the narration on this, and it's pretty good. I understand if you can get around the region lock, though, the British version, the person who reads that one is superb. So, but anyway. Okay. Well, I guess that's about it. Like I said, I know it's kind of a short show, but considering there was just the 2 of us, and technically only one of us
half of it.
Yeah, one of us has only finished it. I guess that's about it. I mean, I really don't want to go into all the minutia. Like I said, my biggest things were, and I'm looking here, even on the Wikipedia page, it's talking about reception of the novel has been mixed. Some reviews praised its righteous message, which I understand. I do like the message that, hey, we need to, even if it's technically, sitting in front of a computer and playing a video game, people have rights. We need to pay them a living wage. We don't need to, basically enslave them for this type of thing. But others have said that the economics lessons and stuff may have distracted from the overall novel, for those who have been interested in it. So yeah, pretty much exactly what we said was, some people were able to get around all that stuff and really like the message, and other people like myself were like, I like the message, but I can't get around all this other stuff. It's too much. There's just too much there. So, well, that is it for our show. Have you been reading anything else, or has this been all consuming?
I have not had time. I've read a few articles in a magazine or two, but I think Nature Conservancy, but that's about it. Yeah, I'm planning on reading Michelle Obama's book Becoming, or listening to it actually, because I got it on Audible, because I'm going to see her next month. So hopefully
awesome.
I'll have that read by next show.
You know what's funny? That's how I actually started Audible. Was my friend Lewis's wife works for one of the universities down by the border, and I had a chance. He calls me and he says, "Hey, listen, Steve Wozniak is going to be there speaking. Do you think you can make it down here and you can meet him?" And I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah, I want to go down and meet Steve Wozniak." So the first thing I did was I was listening to all these podcasts and they kept saying, "Oh, get an Audible account and get like 2 free credits or a free credit or whatever." And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe I'll try that because I don't know if I'm gonna have time to read his book. I'll listen to his book." And I listened to his book and I can't, cancel my account. And then like a month later, I was like, I kind of enjoyed that. Maybe I'll try that again. And then I've been an Audible member ever since. So,
they get you with that free trial.
Oh yeah.
If you forget to cancel it, and you're like, "Oh, I'll just get something else."
Well, I mean, especially if your first book is a good one. Like I could understand. Like I'll be honest, if this was if For the Win was my first book, I would have probably not come back.
Like I'm never reading again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were also heavily advertising on a lot of the podcasts I was listening to. So a lot of the shows, as part of their advertisement segment, they would literally talk about what the stuff they were reading are, and they were like naming off these books and describing them. It's like, wow, that sounds really interesting. Maybe I should try this thing out. And like I said, that's kind of how they got me to go back to it or whatever. So, Cy says, I felt like this show was just for me. Well, you're welcome, Cyrus. I hope you enjoyed our review of the book.
An exclusive.
Other things I've been reading, like I said, I've started reading the Harry Potter series. I did go ahead and read our next book, the book we're reading for next month. It's, as compared to this one, is pretty short. It's a pretty short book, but it's Rhett Link's Book of Mythicality. And so that's what our next book will be reading or reviewing for the next show. I already read it. I actually, in the pre-show, we were talking. I've been reading this series, or listening to this series for over a year now, called the Play to Live series. And last month, I finished book 6, and I thought book 6 was the end. And I really didn't want to read book 6 because I was getting to a point, I was just like, I don't like where this story is going. I don't like how everything's happening in this book, but I've got to find out what happens. I finished book 6, and it's like, oh no, stay tuned for book 7. I'm just like,
wait, there's more.
Yeah, I messaged the group, and I'm like, my eye is twitching. I am so like pissed off / frustrated or whatever. And so this month I went ahead and listened to book 7, and it was getting a little bit back more to the original story, but it's still so freaking far out there. Like, it's literally, the book started off as this guy, he's got terminal cancer, and he finds out that by playing this in this immersion capsule, if you play this game long enough, you basically get permanently assimilated in it. You go perma. And so like they can like shut off all the things to his body, and his body dies, but he will still live on. So it's a way to escape death.
To live forever, yeah.
Yes, and it starts off as that. And I'm like, that's an interesting idea. What's going to happen when more and more people try to do this and this, that, and the other? It's literally to the point that this fictional world, this video game world, and the real world have started crossing over, and actual gods and demons are coming into play. And I'm just like, it is so far out there.
Now it's just getting too much.
And it's that, but it's also the author is Russian, and I have this feeling that he's popular in the Russian government, and or has some kind of influence or something, in that it's getting more and more nationalistic as well as it goes along, which I'm like, it's not that it's Russia, it's just the fact it's very nationalistic, but it's also very well, let's just say women aren't of the highest priority or character in the book. Okay, so for example, this is a perfect example. There's a part where he comes back, he teleports back into his living quarters, and his assigned created bodyguard / assassins show up to get back in there to him. And they're all like, and his words, they're very wasp-waisted female warriors, scantily clad, which I'm like, fine, whatever. It's a fantasy game or whatever. But the fact that, he had to point out that, their round behinds made it a little difficult for them to all get into the door, but, more than one at a time. I'm just like,
oh my God, I will never read that book.
I'm done. No, I would never tell anyone to read this book. I'm just like, I'm done. It would be one thing if it like started off that way and then eventually, and it's funny is because some of the characters are trolls or whatever and everything else. But I'm just like, this is just too 1980s nationalistic
So is this the
ideology.
series you traded back in?
This is the series I traded back in. Once I
weren't
finished the
happy with?
book, yes, once I finished the book, I went on to Audible, and you can actually trade books up to a year from when you purchased them. So I had bought the first 3 books over a year ago. I traded in the last 4 books in the series, and like within 5 minutes, Audible came back and was like, "All right, well, here's your credits back." So I'm like, "All right, well, I guess I'll start on Harry Potter." And of course, I'm already enjoying it. That's why I went. I was like, "Oh, I'll do this. I know I'm gonna enjoy this." But yeah, if no, I can't even say that because there are other lit RPG books out series out there that are much better than this. Like I said, from what it started off as, I thought was an interesting premise, and where it's gone to is just batshit crazy. So, and the other thing is the guy didn't even finish the story. It's been 2.5 years since he wrote the last book, and he's been supposedly promising an 8th book, and there's been no word on it. And I'm just like, I'm done. I'm done. So I'm done with the sexism. I'm done with the nationalism. I've got better things I can read. So anyway,
Was it written by Donald J. Trump?
no, it was not. Guy's name was D.
Sounds
Roos.
like maybe that.
Oh, actually, well, Russia. Okay.
Russia, sexism. I mean,
Just saying. God, that is our show for the month, ladies and gentlemen. If you would please give us a full 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Music. It does help out, especially if you leave a review there as well. You can listen to us record the show live. Usually we do it about the first Wednesday of the month. So next month we'll be doing Rhett Link's Book of Mythicality. I can already tell you, no spoiler, but yeah, good book. Go read it. It's fun. It's whimsical. It's a good laugh. So, and then of course you can check out our other shows. The Epically Geeky Show, we do that bi-weekly, and then of course Sustainably Geeky, we do that once a month as well. And you can find all of those feeds on epicallygeeky.com, the redesigned website. We've actually got we've changed up the logo a little bit. We spruced up the website. We've even got new music. So moving into our 2.0 stage, I guess. And then you can find us at Epically Geeky on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Where can we find you online, Jennifer?
I am on Epically Geeky, Marginally Geeky, and Sustainably Geeky. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Het's Gonna Be Me. And I think that's it.
Technically you are on more shows on this network than I am, and I started the network.
Well, you do the maker show sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I really got to get back into that, but we'll see. So, well, that is it for our show. As always, you can find my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.